Yo, it's me, CSCOTT, and it's time to continue on my road to the 31 on 31 this year with classic horror films. And today, this time, we are going to take a look at Phantasm. Interesting thing is, when I went to watch this morning, I put in the DVD and then realized, well, I got a Blu-ray. It's better quality than it is. So Phantasm tells the story of two brothers who live in a small town when a curious-looking mortician shows up, and mysteriously, along with this mortician showing up, bodies start to go missing from the graveyards, leading one young kid named Mike to try to figure out what is going on. First and foremost, this is a classic film, and it is, up until at least a year ago, this was probably my favorite of the franchise. But now I have a respect for Phantasm 2, I think that becomes the best of the franchise. But for me, this is an enjoyable film. I think it's very well done. I believe it was Don Coscarelli's feature film debut. He wanted to make a small, low-budget film. There is an introduction on this Blu-ray with Angus Scrimm, which was obviously filmed before he passed away. And it was just a nice little, he said the only line he ever really had in this movie, at least, was, "Boy!" which is his iconic line. But yeah. And originally, this film was actually like over 3 hours long. And they took a bunch of scenes out to make it like an hour and a half. And they did use some of those deleted scenes for the fourth film, Oblivion. So, yeah, we'll get to that. So, like I said, it tells the tale of Mike and Jody, two brothers living in a small town who, Mike, it starts with this woman doing this guy, and she turns into the tall man and kills him. The same thing is what happened to Jody a couple nights later. This is Jody's friend that dies, and then Mike interrupts, and it stops from happening. My biggest thing is, why does the tall man have to have sex with someone before killing them? I mean, it would be simple if he just disguised himself as an attractive woman to lure them into the graveyard and then kill them. But he actually has sex with them first, as we see him having sex with Jody's friend, and then he was about to. And I do think it's funny that Jody chases after Mike with a pair of panties in his mouth, which, why didn't they disappear? You didn't think they would once the tall man turned back into himself? Who knows? But yeah, Mike is convinced there's something going on, and nobody wants to listen to him. It's that kind of movie until he cuts off the finger of the tall man or whatever it was, and he keeps it in a box and he shows Jody, and Jody's like, "I believe you." And so there you go. You got someone that believes you. There is a character in this movie that I like to compare to Burt Gummer from Tremors. Michael Gross, Burt Gummer from Tremors. And that's because both of those characters in the first films they were in, they were side characters. They were the main characters. It's later that they become the main characters of the franchise. That's Reggie, played by Reggie Bannister. He's the ice cream man, banjo playing ice cream man, and he is the best character in this franchise. Wait until you get to the second one, and you got his Hemikuda, you got the quadruple barrel shotgun that he puts together. He takes over this franchise, much like Burt Gummer takes over the Tremors franchise. He becomes the star. But yeah, Angus Scrimm as the tall man will be he's probably one of the lesser, the Tall Man is probably one of the lesser known horror icons, which is why you don't hear much. When you think of horror icons, you think Freddy, Jason, Michael, Chucky, maybe even Pinhead. But you don't really hear the Tall Man. You might say, hey, you know the Tall Man. And someone might say, oh, that horror movie with Jessica Alba? You then smack them in the face, kick them in the nuts if they're a dude, and say, no, I'm talking about the Tall Man. Boy! That's what you do. Special effects are decent. This is 1979, so it's not the biggest. And they're on a cheap budget. They're decent. They're fine. And you got these little Jawa-like guys that run around working for the Tall Man. It's revealed that they were the dead bodies shrunk down, turned into slaves, reanimated and turned into slaves for him because of the density of the dimension. You get this little things that can teleport dimension. This franchise is very confusing. And I almost didn't put this on the list because I wasn't sure if I'd be able to review this without getting confused, because the ending is one of the most confusing endings I've ever had to watch in a film. Mike wakes up after the thing has happened, and he finds out from he's asking for Jody, and Reggie tells him that Jody died in a car accident, like before the start of this movie, I think, supposedly. And so everything that he had seen was technically a dream, because they quote unquote killed the Tall Man at the end of this. And so you really believe this is a dream, and he's living with Reggie the whole time. And then Mike goes to his room, and the next thing you know, the Tall Man is in the mirror, and he goes, boy, and it ends. So it did happen. Jody didn't die in an accident. He was killed by the Tall Man, which is what they showed. But, like, it's, you know, he died in a car accident. Reggie's trying to tell him he died in a car accident, not the Tall Man. And even when the second one starts, and that's even more confusing because they recasted Mike. I'll get to that when I eventually do the second one. But even when the second one starts, Reggie still doesn't believe him. Reggie was part of that. Why didn't Reggie ever have it? I don't know. I have to rewatch the second one. But as it stands, this film is a classic, to be sure. I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. Because, I mean, watching it on Blu-ray, it's pretty good, you know, HD quality. But then that also, you know, these movies were once made before the invention of HD. They were never meant to be in HD. So sometimes things get a little bit sketchy. And there is the scene where the two girls are driving Mike and they end up dead because of the Jawas. I don't know why that was put on there, but and there are some scenes that lag. There's just a lot of walking down the street. Like there's this scene. Mike has an encounter with the Jawas or the Tall Man, whatever, and the very next day he's just walking down the street with a sucker in his mouth. I'm like, that's a little. He wouldn't be just happy-go-lucky walking down the street with a sucker in his mouth. But I digress. This movie is good. It gets 8 out of 10 from me. So what are your thoughts on Phantasm? Let me know in the comments below. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Thank you for watching. I've been Scotty. See you in the next one.